It's coming up to 8 minutes past 8. Of course, Matt will have the weather for us, and in around 20 minutes, Mike will have all the sport. First, though, for more than 20 years, Malcolm Brabant was an award-winning BBC foreign correspondent. He covered wars, politics, natural disasters around the world. In 2011, though, his life changed when he developed severe psychosis.
Yeah, Malcolm began to hear voices, and his wife, Trina, captured those experiences as a family on camera. And the footage has now been made into a documentary, which they're hoping will help reduce some of the stigma around mental illness. We're going to chat to them as a family in a moment. But first, let's have a look at the film.
You may not know this, but I used to be seriously mad. I had a yellow fever vaccine that fried my brain and sent me crazy. Where are those bloody planes?
It was Malcolm. He sounded incredibly pained.
You've got loads of planes near us, eh?
His bed had been levitating.
They're bombing Libya.
Do you know who I am? He asked me.
Come and bring them over here to protect me.
That was the signal that confirmed what he'd suspected.
Give me close air cover.
I'm Jesus.
Please protect me.
You are to be first disciple.
Get the Air Force over here now. I've been in an asylum.
I wasn't scared of Malcolm. I was scared at the thought that that could happen so easily.
My husband has had his third ECT treatment today, and I'm sitting with him here at the hospital in his room, and he's right here next to me.
I really don't think that I'm ever going to leave here.
The husband I knew before the vaccine would never, ever have contemplated suicide. Never, ever.
If there is a God, please, please stop this suffering for him.
Well, Malcolm and his wife Trina and their son Lucas all join us here on the breakfast sofa this morning. Morning, thanks so much for coming in.
Morning.
Malcolm, I suppose the first question is, how are you? How are you doing now?
I'm perfectly all right. Don't worry, I'm not going to, I'm not the Messiah, which is what I thought I was. I might appear like Jesus. My wife worships me. She occasionally wants to crucify me, but I can assure you, I'm not the Messiah. I'm just a naughty boy.
It's interesting you can joke about it now, but Trina, the pain, the anguish you were going through, knowing that this partner of yours, who you knew, had gone, and you didn't know when he was coming back.
I simply could not believe what was happening. 1 minute he had a yellow fever vaccine because he was going on assignment to Africa, and the next minute he was telling me, after having the vaccine, that his e-book reader was flying through the room, that he was getting messages from dead friends, that he was Jesus, then our son was Jesus. That was kind of the good side of psychosis. Then the bad side of the psychosis happened when he thought he was the devil. He thought he was a suicide bomber. He tried to commit suicide. It was hell.
How old were you, Lucas, when all of this was happening?
I believe I was between 11 and 12 when that started.
How was it for you?
I mean, in fairness, I don't remember a lot of it. And being that young, you don't really understand what's going on. But as I've grown older, I've come to really grasp the full reality of what happened, and that has definitely had a long-lasting effect.
In which way?
I've had to deal with my own sort of mental problems, but I think that's a story that might come out another day. But yeah, I think I've had to really kind of find myself as a person and really try and rebuild my character after this.
Malcolm, the film that you've made of your experience, it's extraordinary. Extraordinary because you were making a film as a family while it all went on. You were filming yourself. Trina was filming you. Some people will think that was a bit odd, but I suppose for you as a correspondent, as a TV newsman, it was normal.
The thing is, you see, I thought I was Christ, and I shoot my own films. I'm a one-man band, and so I thought the second coming had to be on television. So all these things. When the big relapse in the film that you've seen is something I filmed myself because I thought it had to be on television. It was part of the process of trying to convince the world that the Messiah was here.
And when you look back through those rushes, as we call them in telly news, when you look back at what you filmed of yourself, is it like you're looking at a different person? Can you believe that was you?
Well, I remember most of the things that happened, and I mean the only things that I don't really recall from my period of being locked up in psychiatric hospitals for 18 months is when I had ECT. And that sort of has damaged my memory a bit.
ECT being
electroconvulsive therapy, and I had that 4 times, and it was devastating. I mean, you saw there what I was like, and I was going, "This is going to be a silent movie." I don't recognise that person at all. I'm back to being, the old obnoxious person that I always used to be.
Let's have a look at another clip from the documentary. This is a bit. I think this is when you're in Greece, isn't it? When you're talking to your neighbours. In some cases, shouting to your neighbours. Let's have a look.
Hello. You're Christians next door, aren't you? I know you are. We've never talked, but I know you are Christians. Please protect me. There are forces of evil out there.
What do you hope is going to come out of this film?
Well, there are several things, actually. I mean, we hope that it's actually going to destigmatise mental illness. Also, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, this is an attempt to try and make some money because, you know, we were devastated and we did not get any compensation from Sanofi Pasteur, the vaccine maker. And we also hope that that Sanofi will actually sort of will investigate this vaccine properly, because they haven't done so. They claim that they've looked into it, but none of our doctors have seen anything at all. So we would like them to actually look at this properly.
Well, let's be clear about the relationship now with Sanofi Pasteur and this vaccine. They're the makers of this vaccine for yellow fever, which you took.
Yeah.
And Sanofi Pasteur has given us a statement.
Sure.
As you would imagine, we would obviously want right of reply.
They won't talk to us on camera, and that's kind of moral cowardice, because they won't actually...
Let me just say their statement for fairness of right to reply. It says there's no evidence of any relationship between the yellow fever vaccine and your conditions. It says the injection met all the release specifications. More than 120,000 doses of the batch were distributed in Europe. No similar illnesses reported. Also, though, that vaccines are easily suspected of causing adverse events without any firm evidence, other than the fact the event was observed following the vaccination. And you have, as you said, you've had repeated events. You'd invited them to the premiere of your film.
We did.
Yeah.
And
I sent an email to Olivier Brandicourt, who is the CEO of Sanofi, the parent company of Sanofi Pasteur, the vaccine maker, and I got the same kind of carefully worded letter back where they express sympathy for what we've been through, and that's very kind of them. But instead of their sympathy, I would like, for instance, documentation for the investigation they say they've carried out into this vaccine. Because, you know, as a consumer, I'm lost here. You know, why did this happen to my husband? And it's still happening. I mean, just this morning I learned of another case of a young girl in the Czech Republic who suffered acute psychosis after having this yellow fever vaccine. So it is still happening. And please, could we not just investigate this vaccine and find out what's going on?
I suppose they would say that they are investigating. Trina, Lucas, we've heard what your dad wants the film to achieve. What do you as a family want this to achieve? What do you want it to say to other families and people who've maybe never had a vaccine in their lives?
The mental illness is important to us. It's important to us to show the world that when you have a loved one who's mentally ill, there is a legacy. It's not just the patient, it's the family, and the burden on the families is enormous. We, to this day, I mean, my husband is fine, but Lucas and I, to this day, are struggling with what happened to my husband. And I'm going to be fine, I'm an old bird, but the long-term effects for Lucas, we're uncertain about, and that is painful.
that must be painful to you as well. I know Trina's...
No, it hurts me a lot, actually. I mean, if I raise my voice in the house, for example, then, I mean, Lucas really starts to worry. The other day, I had to have an argument with my current employers in America, and was in the middle of the night because of the time difference, and I was yelling at somebody and saying, Jesus. And, I was making a real fuss, and that really disturbed them. And now I have to temper my behaviour and my anger. I mean, sometimes I'm a really easygoing guy most of the time. But, if I get angry, I just have to control it, because I don't want to set Lucas off and upset him. So I have to be careful.
We wish you all the best with the film.
Thanks very much.
It's been lovely actually talking to you rather than when we were talking down the line or whatever in other climes. It's always lovely to see it. And thank you so much for being so honest about how it's affected you. Malcolm and Trina's film is called Malcolm is a Little Unwell.
Brackets, but he's feeling much better now.
Yeah, he says he's staying.
It's 17 minutes past 8. Now, Matt is in Tamworth for us this morning with